but it's just the opposite. That policy has resulted in this country becoming flooded with fentanyl, and it's resulted in the death of many thousands of Americans. The latest data from the CDC shows that overdoses in the United States hit a new high, almost 100,000 American citizens during the 12-month period that ended in March of this year. How much more is that from last year? It's a 30% increase in 1 year. So there are a lot of reasons this is happening, but one of the main reasons is government policy, which has made the population sedentary and depressed. Our government spent the last year, in case you haven't noticed, locking everyone inside their homes. And the result of that is that drugs are everywhere, and major American cities are now unrecognizable. So open borders means much more of this poison in your neighborhood, our children. Statistics released this week show that as of the end of July, fentanyl seizures at the southern border are more than double what they were for all of last year. Joe Biden did that. Open borders mean many more young Americans will, again, Joe Biden did that. Neither he nor anyone around him cares, however. If 100,000 Afghan refugees this year, of anything, what would we be talking about? That, and only that. CNN would do a special every week. What happened to the Afghan refugees? That would be the single biggest issue in this country by far. But 100,000 American young people, Joe Biden never even mentions it. He doesn't care. And these are hardly the only disastrous effect of open borders. The median price of a new home in this country is now almost 6 times higher than the median American household income. Think about that. That's a record. It's never happened. It's never been more expensive than it is now to buy a house. If you're a young person who's hoping to start a life in this country, that is a disaster. So why is it happening? Lots of reasons. Fed policy, for one. But one of the reasons is overcrowding. It's that simple, supply and demand. No one ever mentions it, but since 1990, this country has gained about 100 million people. 100 million! 1990 doesn't seem like that long ago to some of us. Thanks to the lunatics now in charge, this unsustainable growth is accelerating in ways it never has before, ever. Under Joe Biden, hundreds of thousands of immigrants are coming into the United States every single month. So where are they going to live exactly? Where are they going to send their children to school? What about the health care they've been promised for free? Have you been to a hospital emergency room recently? You should go. Check it out. Once you see it, you'll understand the future the Democratic Party is planning for you. Squalid, overcrowded, chaotic, loud. At the very same moment, the Biden administration has opened the border, allowing a massive wave of this highly addictive synthetic opioid to enter this country. So what do you think happened? Well, an awful lot of people, and this was a result of bad policy. But the Biden administration isn't simply ignoring the problem. They're not apologizing for it, of course. They're doing something even more destructive. They're making it worse. They're making it less possible for the U.S. government to control what comes across our border. You'll remember they blamed the Border Patrol for daring to control the border on horseback. Oh, the economic gains from inviting millions more people who don't have high school diplomas into the country. Nothing against those people. But does any adult really foresee a future in this country where low-skilled labor is the engine of economic growth? That's insane. In fact, it's a lie shocking even by Washington standards. The Biden administration's plan will ultimately entitle illegal immigrants to the full benefits of citizenship. That's the whole point. That would include Medicaid, Social Security, food stamps, etc., etc., etc. Even as the welfare state expands, the number of people drawing from it expands as well. How's that going to end? The cost of all of this, according to the Congressional Budget Office, will be in the hundreds of billions of dollars in the next few years alone. What about long term? Some estimates put the cost at well over $1 trillion or more. But that's all justified, according to Zoe Lofgren, because it's human infrastructure. Human infrastructure? That's weird. Humans are not infrastructure. Humans are alive. They have souls. There's a difference between people and sewage systems. But not in the eyes of the Democratic Party. There's really not that much difference. They don't care about individuals. Individuals are expendable. That's the mindset of every revolutionary through history. People are a means. to power. So to our leaders, illegal immigrants have a very specific functional purpose. They are a tool to change the country forever and ensure permanent democratic control over our government. Tory and Nuland kind of blithely announced during congressional testimony last year that, oh, by the way, we have these biolabs. Yeah. And that was like kind of ignored, and the people who covered it got attacked for covering it, but the fact remains there are US biolabs. Why would we have biolabs in it?
He taught them another trick that has nothing to do with public health, conceivably, which is a technique called seamless ligation, which is a technique for disguising the evidence of human tampering. So you can make the microbe, and then you can erase the evidence that human beings actually made that microbe. We have labs in our claim because we're developing bioweapons, and those bioweapons are using all kinds of new synthetic biology and CRISPR technology and genetic engineering techniques that were not available to previous generation, and they can make frightening stuff. The most likely scenario is that Ben Hu and two other researchers who were working on infectious coronavirus bioweapons got sick and they didn't know it. And so they were riding that subway line every day and infecting people before they actually got symptoms. And that's probably what happened, but nobody knows.
With unwavering conviction, he unravels a chilling narrative, daring us to question the motives behind the veil of secrecy.
The public learned about it, and there was a lot of publicity, and Congress held hearings. 300 scientists wrote President Obama and said, you've got to shut down Anthony Fauci, because he's going to create a microbe that will cause a global pandemic. The intelligence agencies that are actually being honest about that, and most of them are not, believe that Ben Hu and two other researchers got sick. What happened was, when we walked away when the Patriot Act reopened the bioweapons armories in 2001, the Pentagon began putting a lot of money into bioweapons, but they were nervous at that time because if you violate the Geneva Convention, it's a hanging offense. And they weren't sure that provision in the Patriot Act would actually hold up as a loophole to treaties that had been ratified by Congress. So they were nervous about actually going full force into bioweapons development. So they transferred the authority for biosecurity to one agency in the HHS called the National Institute for Infectious and Allergic Diseases, run by Anthony Fauci. So Anthony Fauci got all the responsibility for bioweapons development. He got at that time a 68% raise from the Pentagon in order to do that work. So, and that's why he was the highest paid official in the American government. 4 million people in America. He gets more money. He got more money, $450,000 a year than the president. Any Supreme Court judge, any member of Congress, he was the highest paid, and it's because he got that 68% raise from the Pentagon to do bioweapons development. Now, when you do bioweapons development, every bioweapon needs a vaccine. So you develop them side by side, because in 100% of the cases when you deploy a bioweapon, there's blowback. Your side also gets sick. So in order to deploy one offensively, you need a vaccine to counter it. So you need to vaccinate your team before you deploy it.
Amidst the covert operations, his piercing insights unveil the unsettling reality of hidden biolabs that might hold unforeseen consequences.
Ben Hu was leading that research. Ben Hu then got sick with two other of his fellow researchers, and they ended up in the hospital with symptoms in November of 2019. So it appears that Ben Hu, the subway line that goes past the Wuhan lab and goes straight to the airport, all the original cases were along that subway line.
The Biden administration was funding secret biolabs of all places We would not have believed you. Yeah, I don't think we're going to put that on TV. No thanks. Then if you told us that not only did the administration fund these secret biolabs, but that they then failed to secure the contents of those labs before the Russian invasion, an invasion they knew was coming, an invasion they helped encourage, if you had told us that 4 days ago, we would have dismissed you as a nut. It was just too preposterous. We would not want anything to do with a story like that. There was no way it could be true. Too far out. In any case, we already knew for a fact that that story was false. How do we know that? Because we read USA Today, America's newspaper. Within hours of the Russian invasion, USA Today published a rebuttal to all those crazies who were yammering on about secret biolabs. Here's the headline. Fact check! False claim of U.S. biolabs tied to Russian disinformation campaign. So if you look carefully at the story, and we did, because we were interested, you notice that this fact check was sourced to government unnamed officials and then Biden State Department officials. So these were not exactly objective sources on this subject, but still, the story seemed definitive. It was totally emphatic. Quote, Russia has teamed up with China to further amplify the false claim of U.S. labs in... Okay, USA Today says it's Russian disinformation. Maybe it is. On to the next story.